Now, listen here. So if you have any plan of starting a business right now, just don't start it, okay? I mean, like, don't start the business before watching this video. That's simply what I mean, okay? Because there's some of the people that are calling me like every time telling me, hey, Joseph, things are not going okay. Is it the best time to start a business right now? I do not know. You know, I started like 3 businesses before they failed. What exactly should I do? You get what I'm saying? Now, this is that video that you really need to watch to the end. And guess what? Not only 2024, but anytime you want to start a business, don't do so before watching this video. All right? Let's get into the business. And before you do exactly that, I don't know whether you have this news that I do post a video each and every day. And if you don't want to miss any of my good videos, there is a small button written subscribe down below there. And by the way, it does not hurt, neither cost you anything. Just hit that magical button and also like the video. Comment down below, tell me what you think. Just like an iron sharpens another iron, so do we learn from each other. Let's get in the business. Here we are. Oh, if you're watching me for the first time, my name is Joseph. Now, here we are. You want to start a business. Whatever the budget that you're having, 200, 300, 400, whatever the amount of money that you have, but you want to start a business because you love businesses. There is nothing wrong with that. But you see, there is a thing that people tend to call me and ask me, hey, Joseph, I have 300,000. What business can I start? For example, they tell you, I have like 300,000, okay? 300,000. What business can I start? I'm outside the country. I'm somewhere. I want to start a business, but I do not know exactly what business can I start. And then they tell me to give me an idea. And there is this mentality that people approach you with like, hey, you know what? With 300,000, what can I start? And they want me to throw some ideas. You can do serious, you can do cosmetic, you can do fashion, you can do farming, you can do this, you can do this. Can you imagine if you call me and I tell you that? Oh, 300,000, that's a good amount of money. Hell, go ahead, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. I give you like 100 businesses. And then I say, you okay now? Come on. That does not help you in any way. There is that foundational knowledge that you're supposed to understand way before you put your money on the go. And I always tell people, you'd rather let your money stay in a bank, be eaten by the inflation. I mean, at least for a rate of 6 or 7%, rather than risking this amount of money and in 2 months you do not have it. That's a reality. That's a fact, you know? You see, I always tell people, don't quit the job that you hate to start a business that you don't understand. So the very first thing that you're supposed to understand is this. Before starting any business, you have to understand your budget. Obviously, by default, if you want to start a business, you need to understand your budget. So there are two types of budgets when you're starting a business. There is your budget, and there is what we call real budget. Real budget when you want to start a business. For those who have ever started a business, they know what I'm talking about. So your budget is the amount of money you call me with and they tell me, hey, you know what, Joseph, I have 300K and I want to start a business. That is your budget. And I ask you, fine, before I even throw some ideas out there, have you ever been to business before and blah, blah, blah. I have to gather some information. And then there is what we call the real budget. Okay, the real budget now, this is mirrored by what we call the actuality on the ground. You can actually plan to say, let's say maybe you want to start something like the water refill with this amount of money. Let's say you want to start something like water refill. Okay, I'm just using this as an example. So you want to start a water refill and the budget is 300. You want to buy yourself like a machine, that the ATM or a dispenser, depends on how you call it. You want to rent that place. You want to do the branding. You want to do the advertisement. You want to have the banners. You want to have the POS, the point of sale, or you want to have some CCTV cameras. You want to have all those kind of things. And then you realize maybe the ATM machine would cost you maybe, let's say, 180,000 or 190K. At that particular point, you are remaining with 110,000. Now this 110,000, you have to do the branding. The branding now costs you, let's say, like 40 or 50,000, cost you like 50K, and maybe this is at the minimum. And then you have to do something called the registration of the businesses. You have to do the rent, you have to do the permits, the licensings, and all those kind of things. And then you realize like another 100, like another 80,000 is going, or maybe let's say another like 50,000 is going, 50K. Now, guess what happens? The 110 is done. And then maybe you have not budgeted the advertisement and all those kind of, what I'm trying to say is this, there's what you get on the real on the ground, and there is what you get from your budget. Now, the point is this is good to understand. Compare your actual budget that you have and also the real budget. For example, don't just go start, say, a water refill business without you actually knowing the price of an ATM, without knowing the price of making a counter, making a shelving, doing the branding, the permit, the licensing. How much will it cost you for the rent? And again, you ask yourself, how much profit am I expecting? Okay, and all those kind of things. Now, the other thing that you're supposed to understand is that whenever after the budget now, you go to things that is called why you want to start the business. The why question. The why question is the purpose. the justification of that business. Okay, for example, hey, I want to start this water refill business because where I come from there is a challenge of water, and people usually go for a longer distance to get a fresh drinking water. Or I want to start this business because yeah, we do have such a business in existence, but the business itself either is not good at hygiene, the business itself is not able to cater for all the people. Number three, that the person who sells there does not have the good customer service, or the business where the business is located is far from where people, you see, you have to justify the thing. Another justification is from your, those are the external factors. When we say justification of the business, justification of the business, this of business is actually divided into two. A, we have the external factors, and B, we have the internal factors. Okay, external factors, these are things that actually are out there, and most of the people control or actually consider this. Hey, the location where the business I want to start, there is nothing like such a business. I want to do the competition. The business that in existence does not cater for all the clients and all those kind of things. Those are external factors that can actually affect your business. Okay, now the internal factors are these, something like, hey, I want to start into this water refill business because I've never been employed before in this business, or I have some nitty-gritties as far as this business is concerned. Well, I may not have the experience with the exact business, but I've ever been to business before. Now, at this particular point, for you to answer the question why, there are three areas or three reasons why you can start a business. A, you can either start a business that you have an experience about, you have ever been employed. And I'm going to use example about this. I had somebody who was employed in a butchery, whereby he was doing the meat vending and all those kind of things. But the guy accumulated 180,000, went and started a clothing business. You're moving from a business that you understand, then you are going to a business that you have a passion about. That now helps me to introduce the second point. You can start a business that you have a passion about. All right, you have a passion. And the C, you can actually start a business that you have a what? A knowledge about it. Or should I say, like you see, we usually have the experience, the passion, and you have ever been to school and you have studied that specific thing. You have knowledge. Let me just say knowledge. Okay, let me just use the term knowledge. Okay, and I don't confuse it with experience. Okay, now here we are. Either you want to do some bakery, or you want to get into the hotelier or the hospitality because you have started the hotelier or career or some catering and what have you. You want to start the business. Most of the people, I should say, or around, let's say 75% of people start a business based on the passion. If they say, hey, you know what, I'm passionate about beauty, I'm passionate about this, and then I ask them, okay, fine, there's no problem with you being passionate about, I'm passionate about a certain business, but where I want to locate that business, does it resonate with my passion? Do not just argue from the internal factors only, you being passionate about the business, also consider the external factors. You want to go ahead and start some construction, sort of an industry, something, let's say like you want to start a hardware. That particular area, do people build? And what level are they? Where do they buy their products? Because again, you may find that they do build, but they cannot buy from you. And if they were to buy from you, they won't buy like the bigger things. You know, they would buy like these supplementary things, like huge whatever. Maybe they do build, but they do contract some companies that manufacture those products and bring them at the site. So you need to understand, go beyond the passion, consider the external factors. Now that is the reason why you want to start the business. That is the justification of the business. You know why? And again, the justification of the business, when we refer at the location is what brings you closer to the target market, you know, because see, location, we always say this, location, where the business will be located, brings you closer to who we call the target customers, okay? So you have to understand that. So location, you have to consider that location at a very, very good way. Now, the other thing that you're supposed to consider when it comes to the business is this. What are your prospected profit? Prospected returns. Let me just call them returns. Prospected returns. And this is where the people don't get it right. The prospected returns bears with respect to the amount of money that you're investing as a capital. Can you imagine this? Telling me that I have 100K and I want to start a business and I'm looking forward into making 3,000 per day as a profit. 3,000 per day. Well, and I'm not saying it's not possible. You can making this 3,000 per day. Guess what? Because this one, it will take you only 90. It will take you only 3 months. That is 90 days. 90 days. You have yourself like how much would that be? So it would be 300 times 90. 3,000 times 90. That is way, like for example, if you were to, there's something called breaking even. To break even, it is to recoup back your money. Sometimes it's good to be logic. You see, we always say this. Whenever you invest, I know this is different from business. Whenever you invest a million bob, you're supposed to get 10,000 as a return. But obviously, when you get into investment, you're supposed to get a little bit high because the risk is also high. And you cannot risk your money if you're not getting a good amount of money. So if you tell me, like, I would like to get a business that will give me 3,000 per day, 3,000 per day, this may be a little bit tough. I'm not saying it is impossible, maybe a little bit tough, but when you have a budget of, say, like, I'm aiming to invest like 100K, and I'm looking forward to get an average of, say, 2,000 as a profit from that specific business. Why? At the end of the month, you have yourself like 60K. The second month, you have yourself like 120K. Again, meaning that you're gonna break even. You're gonna recoup back your money in less than 2 months. In less than 2 months. I don't think that is also safe again. I would say if you're gonna go ahead and say, hey, then go ahead and get what we call a 1% of the total amount of money that you invested. And that is what we say in businesses. Whatever you have to invest as a principal amount, you're supposed to get 1% of it, 1% of it daily. I bet I've ever shared this, but this can be violated. Remember, this is according to the books. You might get 0.5% of it daily. So the question is this: you have to know what is your prospected returns. And you really need to sell yourself the reality thing. First of all, understand, if I was to invest this 100K, how much will I get? If you get this money and maybe get 12% of it, this will be like 12,000 at the end of the year. So if you can manage to get 1,200 per day, okay, and maybe you pay yourself like 500, the rest you channel it back to the business, that's a good return, because it's like 500 times 365 days. You're in good business. That's a reality. And I always tell people it is good to make sure that you divide your interest, you divide your profit into 3 categories. How do you do that? You go ahead and have what we call the prospected returns. Let's say maybe your target, if you want to invest 100K, your target is to get 2,000, for example. I'm throwing numbers out there. And then you're supposed to have what we call the mid-tier returns. Maybe let's say the mid-tier returns here is 1,400. Okay, and then we have the lowest profit. Maybe let's say the lowest profit here, the lowest profit, you can say it's around 900. Now, you ask yourself, if assuming that I do not get the prospected returns, assuming that I do not get the mid-tier, but I start my business and I'm operating at the lowest profit of 900, can I be able to go ahead and cater for what we call the operational costs? Operational costs. There's something called operational costs. Operational cost is something like utilities, something like rent, okay, something like permits or licenses, depends on how you call it. Okay, if you want to go ahead and pay somebody, let's say you have employed somebody and all those kind of things, can I be able to pay my the labor whom I've employed in that particular point? And maybe say if you're getting 900 per day, then it means that is 27,000 at the end of the month. Okay, now you calculate how much is my operational cost. Let's say maybe I'm paying for my house rent at around 7,000 per month. Okay, I'm remaining with 20K. Okay, now again, I pay this guy whom I've employed, let's say 10,000. I'm remaining with what? I'm remaining with 10,000. Okay, this 10,000, I do my water, whatever, and all those kind of, again, because permits you do so yearly. Let's say maybe you remain with like 6,000, or maybe let's say 7,000. You remain with 7,000 at the end of the month as your what? Your payment, as your payment. So if you can be able to, now the question is this: will I be able to sustain myself? Will a business be able to sustain itself if it is making a profit of 900? If the answer to that question is yes, then go ahead and start that business. But if you cannot be able to operate on the lowest profit, if the lowest profit of that business cannot sustain it, rethink about you starting that specific business. And I always love to spread the interest, spread the profit that you prospect to get in that specific business way before starting that specific business. All right, that is exactly the things that you consider out there. Again, the last one but not the least, if you are getting yourself into a goods industry or into a goods business where you're selling the goods, you really need to consider the people, we call them the distributors, and also people, we call them the suppliers or something or so. Depends on how you call them. So you really need to know whom or from whom am I getting these supplies from, and the consistency of them supplying, because them being in business also means you being in business. Then you have to make sure that at least you have variety of several distributors and suppliers. Get to know these people way before you even get into the business. Associate with the people who are already in the business that you want to get into. Get to understand where they usually source their product, how much they actually source for, how much much does it go for the transport, how much is the pricing, how much is the pricing of the competitor, all those things. And this is what I always tell people. It is good when you understand all this industry. So by the time now you're getting your foot into it, well, you may not be able to get all the information here. Again, there are things that you learn when you're already into. And that's why we say sometimes even complicating things, the business plans, and you plan and replan and plan, you'll never do anything. You'll never take any action. Some things you learn as you get into the business. And again, one thing, the other qualification that you need to have, you must be crazy. You must have that character of an individual who is a go-getter, a consistency, a discipline, somebody who knows how to persevere so that at least you can be able to see the light of the day. That is exactly how we do about it. So if you didn't know all that information again, and the last thing, maybe I can add this on as a discount. It is good to know what we call the financial management when it comes to business. You can actually get all those factors correct, but you miss on the financial management. There's something called the financial management. So if you miss it on the financial management, therefore it means you're going to get yourself a problem. And the financial management, just know how much you're raking in as a profit. So that if you prospect maybe one day to get a loan, you're going to know, hey, I'm going to get a loan against the profit, not against the stock. You get a loan against the profit that I'm getting in that particular business. Then how do I differentiate between my personal usage and that of the business? Have two accounts. Have the business account. You must have the business account, and you must have what you call the personal account, and you must have what you call the developmental account. You must have those three names. This business account is where the money for the stock and whatever goes in. Personal account is where you put money that you pay yourself from the business, because you need to pay yourself. Otherwise, if you don't pay yourself from the business, then you are stealing from the business. Can you imagine? See, maybe let's say you make like 5,000 a day. So if you make 5,000 a day, then it means there you are, you do not even care, or maybe you do not even find out let's say you make like 5,000. And then you pay everybody, you're remaining with 5,000. And then you assume oh, this is my money. So you go ahead and put it by yourself. How much have you paid yourself? If you were to employ you, how much would you pay you? That's the question I always ask people. You have the 5,000. You have paid all the workers. You're still a worker in that business. If you have not actually laid down the strategies whereby you can withdraw yourself and the business run on itself, you're still a worker in that business. You need to eat, you need to dress, you need to fuel your car if you have one, you need to pay your rent, you need to pay your school fees if you have kids, and all those kind of things. Then where are you getting that money? So from this 4,000, say hey, if I was to employ the work that I do, if I was to employ me, then I would pay me 2,000. Then you take the 2,000, put it in a personal account. The other 2,000 from the 4,000, now that's what you put in a developmental account. Now that 2,000 that you put on the developmental account is the money that you use to expand the business, or is the money that you use to settle, maybe let's say for an emergency that has happened, or maybe it's the money that you use to expand the business and such kind of a thing. So that 2K that you put in a personal account is what you use to pay the school fees and run for your things, okay? The other business account is where you get the money to pay your workers, blah, 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 the stocking and all those kind of things. The other one, that is exactly how you plan yourself. Otherwise, if you do not plan yourself from this perspective, you're going to have yourself a very bumpy ride as far as the business is concerned. And let me tell you one thing, in Kenya, we say character development. Business can hit you with a big character development to a point whereby you can hate it the rest of your life. Anyway, that's not my point. Point is this, do something good. And if you want to learn more at a particular, at a personal level, grab that number of mine from the description of this specific video, give me a call, give me a shoot or a mini mail, we can have a discussion. For now, it's a goodbye. See you in the next one.